Hi there, my name is Daniel, I'm 36 years old, and I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. I never imagined I'd be sitting here telling you about the day I died, or at least came close enough to see what lies beyond. But this is my story, and it's as real as the scars on my body. Maybe you'll find a piece of yourself in it too. It was one of those perfect summer afternoons when the air feels soft on your skin, almost like it's hugging you. I was out at a quiet lake, surrounded by trees and bright skies, the kind of day that makes you feel grateful for being alive. Floating on my back, I watched the clouds drift lazily above me, and for a moment, life felt so simple, so peaceful. Gratitude washed over me like the water itself. You see, I hadn't always known peace. For years, I lived inside the noise of war, serving as an army ranger overseas. I had seen destruction, fear, and death up close. But meditation saved me. It was like finding a hidden key that opened me back up to stillness. That day at the lake, I thought I was finally at home in my body again. Friends were laughing on the dock, music played faintly in the distance, and I felt myself smile. I decided to swim toward the wooden dock where a blue slide waited, slick with rushing water. Kids and adults alike were flying down, splashing into the lake below. It felt like pure summer joy, the kind that makes you forget everything else. I climbed the stairs, heart light, almost childlike. The person in front of me dove headfirst, and without thinking, I followed. The slide was fast, the water rushing, and before I knew it, I was airborne. My arms swept back instinctively as I sliced into the lake. What I didn't realize, what no one warned me about, was that the water below was only 2 feet deep. The impact was instant and merciless. My head and neck slammed into the bottom, rocks and sand cracking against bone. A blinding pain shot through my body, electric and fiery, unlike anything I'd ever felt. For a second, I thought lightning had struck me underwater. My mind couldn't process it. Was I paralyzed? Was I dying? Then I heard it. A voice, clear, steady, coming from somewhere deep inside me. "Slow down," it said. My breath caught. My training told me I was in shock, but this voice felt different, almost like it belonged to someone both within me and beyond me. Pain spread through every nerve like wildfire, but somehow I knew I had to surrender to it. I forced myself to stand, though the water barely reached my knees. My body staggered forward, weak and trembling. That's when I noticed them. Orbs of light, glowing, floating in the air around me. They shimmered like basketball-sized lanterns, silent and weightless. At the time, I didn't understand, but now I believed they were guardians, waiting for me on the edge between life and death. I stumbled to a bench, collapsing as friends rushed toward me, their laughter turning into panic. My vision blurred, but I knew enough to lay flat, feet elevated, fighting the creeping shadow of shock. And yet the voice returned, "You have to go now." My body wanted to obey, to rise, to leave, but when I tried to push myself up, my arm failed. My body betrayed me. I collapsed face first into the gravel, half of me paralyzed. Hands grabbed me, voices panicked, someone shouting for help. The next moments blurred into chaos, being lifted under the arms, rushed into a car, the world spinning in fragments of pain. At the hospital, the scans told the truth. My neck was broken, bones shattered like glass. If the car had stopped abruptly, my head would have snapped from my body. I was one breath away from death, and yet somehow I was still here, broken, terrified, and completely unprepared for what was coming next. Because this was only the beginning. The doorway between this world and the next was about to open, and I was about to step through. Lying in that hospital bed, I tried to steady my breath. Pain radiated from my neck in waves so intense that every inhale felt like fire moving through my body. Nurses hovered, their voices urgent, but I focused on what I had learned in meditation. Observe, accept, let it flow. If this was the end, I wanted to meet it awake. For hours, I resisted the morphine, Something inside me whispered that I needed to stay conscious, to feel everything. The monks I had once trained with taught me that our final breath is sacred, a doorway in itself. So I surrendered to the agony, watching it transform, riding it like a wave. For a while it was almost blissful, but the body has its limits. After what felt like an eternity, I gave in. "Okay," I whispered, "give me the morphine." A nurse pressed it into my IV, and at first, it felt like relief. Then everything began to change. The room dimmed slowly, as though someone was turning down the lights of the world. I felt myself slipping backward, as if pulled into a tunnel stretching endlessly behind me. The monitor beeped once, twice, and then flatlined. I could hear it, even as my body went still. My heart had stopped. In that moment, I realized I was actually dying. Not metaphorically, not someday. Right now. Fear washed over me like a cold flood. Nurses rushed into the room, their voices sharp, their footsteps pounding. But I saw them from a distance, as if I were floating far away at the other end of a narrowing tunnel. Their fear mixed with mine, vibrating through the air, igniting something that pulled me back toward the world of flesh and bone. Suddenly, I slammed back into myself. My chest heaved, my heart caught its rhythm again. I gasped for air like a drowning man dragged to the surface. The tunnel faded, the lights returned, and I was back, alive but forever changed. I had tasted the edge of nothingness, and it left me trembling. That night, I lay awake with my neck immobilized in a brace, staring at the ceiling. The weight of what had happened pressed down on me. I should have been gone. Why wasn't I? The voice inside me had returned twice now, first at the lake, then on the bench. And now, on the brink of death, it had pulled me back again. Who was speaking to me? Myself? God? Something else? The next morning, surgery loomed like a storm. Nurses prepared me, masking my face, explaining the risks, paralysis, permanent damage, even death. My hand shook as I signed the paper, acknowledging it all. The words blurred in front of me. Was I ready? Could anyone ever be ready to die again so soon after already touching it? As they wheeled me down the hallway, every detail imprinted itself in my mind. The sterile smell of disinfectant, the cold air from the vents brushing my skin, the sound of rubber wheels squeaking against polished linoleum. "Where will my body go?" I asked the nurse, though I already knew the answer. She listed off the steps: the elevator, the operating room, the recovery ward. But I felt it was more than logistics. I needed to know where I was going. When the anesthesia began to flow, I thought of the lake. I thought of those glowing orbs hovering like silent guardians. I thought of the tunnel that had pulled me into the dark. And then, as the weight of the medicine pulled me under, the world around me dissolved. The hospital, the walls, the lights, they all fell away, and I stepped once more into the unknown. The next thing I remember was no longer the hospital. No walls, no machines, no cold fluorescent lights. Instead, I stood before a doorway that seemed to float in the middle of space itself. Around me stretched an endless void, filled with distant stars, shimmering like diamonds scattered across velvet blackness. And in front of me were 6 towering beings of light. They radiated with a brilliance I cannot fully describe. Each one must have been at least 11 feet tall, their forms outlined by luminous waves of white and blue. Their centers glowed so brightly that I couldn't look directly inside them, as if their essence was too pure, too vast for me to comprehend. Yet I felt no fear, only awe, reverence, and a sense of deep belonging. One stepped forward, carrying what I can only call a masculine presence. He didn't speak with words, but with pure thought, flowing into my mind like music without sound. The others surrounded him, some with softer, more feminine energy, all of them united in wisdom and love. Standing before them, I felt smaller than a child, and yet more complete than I had ever been in my life. We had been speaking. This much I knew. Though my memory was hazy, it felt like we had already shared hours of conversation, perhaps the entire length of the surgery. Knowledge poured into me, but it was also being carefully hidden away, tucked deep inside where I could not reach it. There was purpose in that forgetting, like a veil gently lowered over my eyes. The one in front conveyed two simple but profound truths. The first, I would not remember what we had discussed. Not yet. If I carried it all back, he said, I would never stop speaking of it, and it would drown out the life I was meant to live. The second, I had work to do. Important work, though I didn't yet know what it was. My mission was waiting, but I would have to uncover it step by step. The beings glowed brighter as the message settled inside me. Their energy was overwhelming, like standing before the sun, but feeling only warmth instead of fire. I sensed their love in every fiber of my being. It wasn't the kind of love we talk about on Earth. It was infinite, unconditional, and without need. For the first time, I understood what it meant to be seen completely and accepted without condition. As they spoke, I realized we were not separate. Their light touched mine, flowing into me, reminding me that I too was made of the same essence. The boundary between me and them blurred until I wasn't sure where my soul ended and their brilliance began. In that space, identity didn't matter. We were all threads of the same infinite fabric. When it came time to leave, I didn't want to. My soul clung to the light like a child not wanting to let go of a parent's hand. Yet I knew the decision was not mine alone. The agreement had been made. My mission awaited me back on Earth. The doorway stretched wider, and beyond it I could see a tunnel spiraling back toward the world I had come from. I turned, reluctantly, feeling my form shift into something weightless and fluid. Colors swirled around me, rainbow arcs of energy spinning like a pinwheel. Joy and peace bubbled within me, not sadness, because I knew this was not goodbye. It was simply not yet. I drifted back down the tunnel, toward a body broken but waiting, toward a life I had not finished living. And then I saw it, my own body lying on the stretcher, still, pale, fragile. But as my spirit merged once again with flesh and bone, I opened my eyes. My fingers twitched, my feet moved, and relief poured over me like a tide. I wasn't paralyzed, I wasn't gone, I was alive, carrying the memory of light hidden within my soul, waiting for the day I would understand my true purpose. The days after surgery were a blur of pain and recovery. My body felt like a cage, stiff and fragile, yet something inside me had shifted forever. I wasn't the same man who had climbed that slide or signed those hospital papers. Something had been planted within me during those hours with the beings of light, and now it was slowly beginning to bloom. At first, it came in small, unexpected ways. A sudden urge to create, even though I had never been an artist. I found myself reaching for needle and thread, stitching a tiny rose into fabric. My hands shook at first, but as the thread passed through, an unexplainable joy filled me. Every stitch carried peace, every line whispered meaning. It was as though the act itself was prayer, that rose was just the beginning. Soon came a tree, a butterfly, a small dog. Each design flowed out of me with surprising ease. Though I had never practiced embroidery before, I began adding more fabric, connecting pieces together, building something larger without fully knowing why. What emerged was a tapestry, colorful, intricate, alive with symbols I felt I had seen somewhere beyond this world. As I sewed, memories began to surface, not of this life, but of another. I saw myself walking barefoot across a small island in Sri Lanka, dressed in robes, a Buddhist monk devoted to silence and prayer. I remembered the name, Nyanamoli. And even stranger, I remembered that in that lifetime I too had once been a soldier before becoming a monk. much like in this one. The parallels struck me deeply. Months later, I traveled to Sri Lanka to see if what I remembered had any grounding in reality. On a small lagoon island, I met a monk who looked at me with recognition in his eyes. When I told him what I remembered, he nodded gently and said he too recalled being there in a past life and that he had once been my teacher. The moment felt like time folding in on itself, lifetimes meeting across the fabric of eternity. Back in North Carolina, the visions continued to flow. I began to see not just my own past lives, but glimpses of something greater, a vast tapestry, weaving itself in colors beyond imagination. Every thread represented a soul, some bright and golden, others dark and frayed. On their own, each thread looked incomplete, broken even, but together, the pattern was flawless, breathtaking in its beauty. The message became clear: no life is wasted, no thread is meaningless. Even the darkest strands serve the larger design. From the perspective of Earth, caught in the struggle of daily pain and loss, we cannot see it. But from the higher vantage point, the weave is perfect. We are all essential, all connected, all part of a masterpiece too vast for human eyes to fully comprehend. For nearly 4 years, I stitched in silence, letting the work itself teach me. Each thread was a meditation, each color a prayer. Friends and strangers who saw the tapestry often wept without knowing why. The fabric spoke where words could not. It reminded them, as it reminded me, that life is more than chaos. It is part of a divine order, hidden yet present in every breath. The more I worked, the clearer my mission became. I wasn't meant to keep this to myself. The beings of light hadn't sent me back to live quietly in the shadows. They sent me back to share, to remind others of what we've forgotten, that we are not alone, that we are never separate, and that love is the thread holding it all together. This was the work they had spoken of, and it was only just beginning. And so, needle in hand, I continued. With every stitch, I wasn't just creating images on fabric. I was weaving together memories, visions, and truths from beyond the veil. I was bringing the light of that doorway into this world, one thread at a time, and with each piece I felt myself drawing closer to the reason I had been given another chance at life. As the years passed, the visions stitched themselves not only into fabric, but into my very soul. The tapestry I worked on became more than art. It was a living reminder that every one of us is a vital part of something far greater than we can imagine. And the more I shared it, the more I realized this was never about me. It was about us, all of us. People often ask me what the future holds. They want to know if my experience showed me answers, if I saw where humanity is headed. And though I can't claim to know every detail, I can say this: the future is not something to fear. Yes, there will be pain. Yes, there will be destruction. But there will also be healing, beauty, and awakening, unlike anything we've ever known. We are standing at a threshold, much like the doorway I once faced among the stars. On one side, chaos, violence, division. On the other, compassion, peace, unity. Both exist, and both will continue to exist. But what matters most is where we place our attention. If we focus only on the wounds of the world, we may believe everything is broken. But if we look toward nature, love, and each other, we'll see that healing has already begun. Nature in particular carries the key. The forests, rivers, oceans, they're not just background scenery. They are living medicine, vibrating at the pace of the earth's healing. When we walk among trees or sit beside water, we tune ourselves back to the rhythm of wholeness. In that stillness, the noise of fear quiets, and we remember who we really are, part of a vast, sacred garden. That's how I see Earth now, as a garden. Each of us is a gardener, planting seeds with our actions, our words, our choices. We can fill this garden with flowers of peace, kindness, and love, or we can cover it in concrete and chaos. The choice is ours, moment by moment. And the truth is, even the smallest seed of love can spread farther than we know, shaping the landscape of generations to come. The beings of light showed me that our abilities go far beyond what we think possible. We've forgotten our natural power to heal, ourselves and one another, but this power is still within us, waiting to be awakened. Every act of compassion, every moment of forgiveness, every step into silence opens that doorway a little wider. Healing is not something reserved for the chosen few. It belongs to all of us. And perhaps the most important reminder is this: you are not here by accident. If you're alive, if you're breathing, then you chose this life. You chose to be here in this time, with these challenges, with this story unfolding. Even when it feels unbearable, even when the pain is too heavy to carry, your thread matters. Without you, the tapestry is incomplete. I don't share this to inspire fear or blind faith. I share it because I lived it. I died, I crossed over, I stood before beings whose love could light galaxies, and I was sent back with a mission to remind you that you are loved beyond measure, that you are never alone, and that your life, yes, even in its struggles, is part of something beautiful and eternal. So, as you listen to my story, remember this: you too are a thread in the great tapestry. And though you may not see the full design right now, trust that it is unfolding exactly as it should. Your pain has purpose, your joy has meaning, and your existence is a gift to the universe. Together, we are weaving something magnificent. Together, we are already healing the world. And when your time comes, when you too stand at the doorway between worlds, don't be afraid. You will not be walking into darkness. You will be walking into light, into love, into the eternal embrace of something that has never once let you go. Until then, live fully, love deeply, and remember, every stitch you make in this life is part of the masterpiece we are creating together.